I love the Assassin's Creed games. I've played all of them, and that is not an exaggeration. As I'm making this video, I'm actually playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They have taken me to places through history that I could never have imagined visiting, and I have loved every single one of them. Of course, some of them haven't quite been as good as the others. Not thinking of any games in particular, but on the whole, I have enjoyed every single one of them. And it's probably now time to say that this is undoubtedly one of my favourite series of games. In 2013, when Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag came out, I was enthralled. I couldn't get off it. First of all, I love the pirate era. I'm fascinated by it, and I love naval combat. And it is undoubtedly one of my favourite ever Assassin's Creed games. So in 2017, when Ubisoft announced Skull and Bones, an online pirate MMO that was due to be released in 2018 and was heavily inspired by the naval combat in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, I was excited. But here we are at the very end of 2020, and 2 years after the game was initially planned to come out, we're still not sailing the seven seas, hoisting the Jolly Roger, and committing piracy on our friends. Which leads me to that all-important question: where is Skull and Bones? Where the hell is it? Seriously, this game was meant to come out 2 years ago. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy and welcome to my latest video, and this one is focused solely on Skull and Bones. We'll start off with the facts, the things we know about the game, and then moving on to the development history and some of those all-important rumours and leaks. Towards the end of the video, I'll be talking about some of the things that I would like to see in the game, and moving on finally to speculating about when we could finally see this game that hopefully hasn't sunk to the bottom of the deep blue sea. Please remember to hit that like button, as it really helps these videos to do well. And if you do enjoy these kind of videos that takes a game that seemingly disappeared that was in development and probably in development hell, please consider subscribing. But now, let's talk about Skull and Bones. So, as I said in the introduction, Skull and Bones was announced in 2017, with an initial release date of 2018. The game was announced as a naval warfare and piracy game to be developed by Ubisoft Singapore, who had done some work on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. It sounded at first like it was going to basically be all of the piracy elements of Assassin's Creed 4, but without that kind of assassins thing and the kind of gods and the future moments, and that all sounds pretty darn good to me. So what was it going to be? Well, unlike Black Flag, which was set in the Caribbean, this game was due to be set in the Indian Ocean, and it would feature a single player campaign and a heavy stress on multiplayer. It would be a tactical action game set in the open world environment of the Indian Ocean, and of course that traditional Assassin's Creed third person perspective. There'd be lots of elements of customization, including the ability to customize your captain and your ship, and we were told that the narrative itself would be thread and woven into the experience. So even if you wanted to play the game but didn't want to engage in piracy with your friends, you could follow a story in the game. And the final thing that has to be mentioned was the return of sea shanties. Oh, I love a good sea shanty. Now, as a personal reference, I need to tell you that during Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, it's one of the only times in my life, my gaming history, that my wife has told me to please, and I paraphrase, put on that flipping headset because those flipping songs are driving me flipping crazy. However, I love a good shanty. So the fact they're back delights me. However, it may not be as delightful for my wife or for my marriage. So now let's talk about the development cycle. And our story begins in the year 2017, and we received first announcement of this game in the form of a cinematic trailer. Now, I'm not a huge fan of cinematic trailers. So often do they mislead us and make us think the game is one thing and it turns out to be something completely different. Dead Island. Not even talking about Dead Island 2 this time. But anyway, they can also be used heavily to set the scene, and in the case of Skull and Bones, I feel that they nailed it perfectly. We were informed that the game would take place in the 1720s in the Indian Ocean, following a huge exodus of pirates from the Caribbean, who wished to continue their pirating ways. The trailer seemed to imply the game would be fast-paced and aggressive, with lots of destruction and also the themes of betrayal. And right at the end of the trailer, we got a glimpse of the Kraken, which implied that this game would be complete with mythical creatures like the Kraken, which sounds pretty darn excellent to me. And at E3 2017, we were also treated to our first gameplay video, and it didn't take long for people to realise just how closely linked this game was to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. we got our first taste of the multiplayer experience with a game called Loot Hunt, in which a team of ships took on another team of ships to collect as much loot in the time allowed as they could, all while trying to destroy their opponents and protect your own ships from being destroyed and losing your loot. We were also introduced to the idea of different classes of ships, including a sloop that was equipped with a mortar and would act like a kind of sniping vessel. Then there was your brigantine that would act as a ramming vessel, like your close combat vessel, and also a frigate, your heavily armoured ship that could take a battering and defend your other ships. We saw things like ramming and boarding, and oh my word, I was incredibly excited. Now, we knew at the time that the game would be focused more on the naval combat and the naval aspects of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, but one thing that was kind of apparent from the trailer was that the characterization seemed to be more focused on the ship than it did actually the crew, and that led to a few people speculating that it would be more of an arcadey feel. And then roll forward to 2018, and we got some more gameplay trailer at E3 2018. And this time the video was a lot more in depth, and we saw things like disguising yourself with different sails and flags to blend in and not get taken down by a fort, which implied some kind of sneaking and stealth missions, that there was more than one way to sink a ship. And there was hunting and calling your friends in and ganging up on other ships so you could work together as a team, and that team in turn would then turn on you. And all in all, the game was shaping up to be something incredibly exciting. You could tell there was an evolution between the 2017 and 2018 build, with the 2018 build looking a lot more tactical, and there was also the first signs that you would be able to walk on land. Now, I couldn't quite tell when I saw this if that was just sort of a menu where you would select your ships or your crewmates, or indeed it was a whole section. But I suppose time will tell as we get more news about this game, if indeed we do get news about this game, because it seems to have disappeared. Gone, but not forgotten. Well, forgotten by some maybe, I don't know. And in 2018, a number of journalists also got their hands on the game and were able to play it firsthand. And a lot of these journalists allayed our fears that it was too closely linked to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, with a lot of them reporting that the game was fast-paced but heavily tactical. And something that a lot of them liked is that your perspective would move around the ship depending on which area was functioning. So for example, if you use your broadside cannons, your perspective would flip to the use of one of those cannon operators, or if it was somebody in the crow's nest, your view would go to them. And at this point, I have to say I was pumped about this game. I was so looking forward to it, but delay after delay after delay has led to me wondering where the hell this game is now. And as I said, all of this information was true as of 2018. And if you head back to the official Skull and Bones website, which if you look at it doesn't look like it's been updated since 2018, there was also a series of information including Naval Combat Redefined. Live the thrills, brutality and intensity of naval combat as you fight for domination of the seas, devastate foes with powerful weapons, or use tools such as disguise and betrayal to approach combat your way. So it sounded very much free and open, this game, with that disguise element referring to hoisting different flags, using different sails to hide yourself, to pretend you're a different vessel, to take your opponents by surprise. Then there was also hunt solo or with friends, going back again to that plunder alone or team up with other pirate captains to coordinate your efforts to loot the toughest enemies. So again implying that there would be a heavy element of single player. The third of the fourth slide says build the ultimate pirate fleet. Acquire unique and deadly ships, then customize them using deep progression systems to create your own playstyle. Yes, there will be microtransactions in this game, possibly used to customize your wonderful looking ship. And finally, there was the explore a living open ocean. Hunt along lucrative trade routes as unpredictable weather, warring factions, rival pirates, or even other deadlier threats constantly change the world around you. So, that dynamic weather system, and of course I can only imagine that that last deadlier threats refers to the Kraken that we saw at the end of the trailer. So all of that information was 2 years ago, and since then there has been a lot of delays. Now, we know that the game was trailered and featured at E3 2017, and in 2018, apparently the press even got to play it. However, the release date of 2018 has been and gone, and at the same time we were also promised an open beta that never actually appeared. In 2020, in September, we finally got some news about this pirate game, and that was when Elizabeth Pellon, creative director of Ubisoft Singapore, confirmed that the game is in full swing with a new vision. And all this information came on the Ubisoft's official website, and it was announced to quell any speculation that the game would be appearing at Ubisoft Forward Showcase that was happening on September the 10th. And in her statement she confirmed that they would be showing Skull and Bones at some time in the future. So I guess the positive there is that it's not cancelled, because it's quite obvious if you're not presenting on that day, you're going to present it in the future if it's not cancelled. But anyway, and also guaranteed that it will be worth the wait. Let's hope so. Now, I'm all for delays. Delays can make a good game polished, finished, and become a great game. In her statement, she said that we dreamt something bigger for Skull and Bones, and these ambitions naturally came with bigger challenges. These difficulties resulted in necessary delays for our game. Critical questions needed to be addressed over the past several months, such as, how do we modernize the classic pirate fantasy? How do we ensure a more immersive and visceral experience? How do we create cool and memorable moments in-game? For most of these questions to be answered, it was clear that we needed more development time. So while that sounds a pretty positive declaration that the game is in full swing, it does also mean that at some time between 2017 and 2020, there was a reboot, which means that all of that information we knew from earlier on, the Assassin's Creed 4 linkings and everything about it, has been at some point rebooted. Now, to what extent, we have no idea, although there was a leak and rumour that said that the reason the game had to be rebooted is that the development team were concerned it shared too much in common with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and that they wanted to distinguish it and make it its own game. So, those important words are coming out now. This game is in development hell, and the development hell of this game may rival that of Beyond Good and Evil 2. Yep, remember that one with the great cinematic trailer all those years ago? And the declaration of this statement in September seemed to confirm the rumours that had been flying around that the game was approaching a new, more live service game model, making it feel a little bit more influenced by something like Sea of Thieves and Fortnite, with a hopefully, from my personal opinion, with more of an emphasis on Sea of Thieves. And that makes total sense, because Ubisoft are a business and will have been looking around and will have seen the success of Sea of Thieves, and that may well have impacted on a decision to double down and really go for the multiplayer aspects. And before we speculate about what we could be seeing, there were two further pieces of news. The first one is the confirmation that we will not be getting the game until sometime after March 2021, which possibly means in the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And I will of course speculate on when exactly I think this game could be coming at the end of this video. So yet again another delay, meaning that this game will have been in development for at least 4 to 5 years before we finally see it. And in November we also got the news that the managing director of Ubisoft Singapore, the Skull and Bones studio, Uz Rakor, I don't know if I said that name correctly, after a leadership audit revealed some serious allegations made against him. Now, whether or not that will have an impact on the game, it may in fact change its direction once again. So, let's say what we could see in this game. So, for example, I would like to see, if we are going to see live service elements, for example, an event that everybody wants to see happening in the game at a certain time, I would like it to be sea monsters, or a famous pirate coming back, or something like a ghost ship where you have to take it down. I would like to see the ability to travel across land, build settlements, work together and build pirate coves. And also, I would like to see some kind of procedurally generated environment, meaning that the world is effectively limitless. Let's move on to that final point and make a call when we could be seeing Skull and Bones. I don't think we'll be seeing it anytime until 2022. That's my personal opinion. That statement about it coming sometime after March 2021. Well, first of all, you've got Far Cry 6 coming out, which will be their big release. Now that has recently been pushed back, and I would imagine that will be early 2021. Then of course you probably have another Assassin's Creed game in the works. Let's hope for Japan. Let's hope for China, let's hope for Asia. Let me know in the comments below which time period you'd like to see the next Assassin's Creed game explore. So in my honest opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this around March 2022. And that would give the game enough time to have a good development cycle, a lot of playtesting. And yes, I know that's well over 15 months, but to be honest, it sounds like the game might indeed need it. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm right. Let's start a conversation, let's talk about this, let's talk about the things you'd like to see, and when you think this game is coming. But from me today, this is Roy McCoy, out!